or perhaps Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our day two training. Um, Before we start, while we still have a few minutes here, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to use the chat system to send in any of your questions. And if possible, I'll try and respond to them now. Okay? So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to send them through using the chat box.
Hi, Ken. Ken, I think there is a question from Sajidul Alam Sajid. Can you please answer?
Hi, Sajidul. To choose the engagement profile, you need to create a new file. So if you watch the recording from Thursday, when I first create a file, the first option you are given is the engagement profile selector. Now, if, and this is really, really rare, if halfway through the engagement you decide to change the profile, you are best to reach out to us because depending on the situation, we may recommend that you don't change the profile because changing the profile means you're starting the engagement from scratch again. So you start from the beginning again. So a lot of times when we get questions on, can I please change the profile? We need to have a discussion to understand at what stage in the audit engagement you are in. So if you said, oh, I have just done a little bit of planning, then we realized we chose the wrong profile, we can then show you how to. But if you don't have, if you have actually finished or a lot of the work, then our recommendation is you stick to that profile till the next year. Okay, Sajidu, can I confirm when you create a new file, what is the type of engagement you select? So I'll share my screen here very quickly. Wrong button. So when I first create a file, let's just call this test file. Okay, I need to choose Audit International and create file. If you choose blank file or existing file, that's not going to be a pop-up. You need to choose the Audit International template for that pop-up to show. So please just let me, can you confirm if you had chosen Audit International?
স্যার আপনাদের কারোর কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে প্লিজ, আমাদের এখনো টাইম আছে নেক্সট সেশনের, সো আমরা কিছু প্রশ্ন নিতে পারি ফর দ্য ফার্স্ট সেশন।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আফসিন আপা।
জি এমদাদ ভাই, জি ভালো
জি
আছেন?
জি আছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। আমি কেনকে হোস্ট করে বের হয়ে যাই। হ্যাঁ
জি জি জি,
জি ঠিক আছে,
থ্যাংক ইউ।
ওকে জি।
স্যার আমরা কিন্তু অলরেডি রেকর্ডিং সবাইকে শেয়ার করে দিয়েছি, যদি কেউ না পেয়ে থাকেন প্লিজ আমাদেরকে একটু টেক্সট করেন। 17 জুনের রেকর্ডিং অলরেডি শেয়ার।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আফসিন বাতেন।
জি আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। রেকর্ডিংটা একটু গিয়ে আপনার ওই যে আননেসেসারি যে জিনিসগুলো ওগুলো একটু বাদ দিয়ে ওটাকে একটু চুজ করে দিলে একটু ভালো হতো না?
না
এখানে
আমাদের
এখানে রেকর্ডিং এ দেখলাম একজন বিগিনিং থেকেই যে আসছে বিভিন্ন জনের বিভিন্ন কনভারসেশন, এগুলো সবই এখানে ওই লিংক থেকে পাওয়া যাচ্ছে। ওইটাকে আরেকটু যদি যে শর্ট করে মানে আননেসেসারি কেটে একটু যতটুকু প্রয়োজন অতটুকু দিলে আমাদের একটু টাইম বাঁচে, না হলে তো রেকর্ডিং প্রথম থেকেই প্লে করতে হয়।
স্যার আমার এটা একটু আইটির সাথে কথা বলতে হবে, আমি ব্যাপারে জানি না, তো তারপরে স্যার রেকর্ডিং এখানে অনেকে লিখছেন যে রেকর্ডিং পান নেই, সো আমরা অলরেডি শেয়ার করেছি।
আচ্ছা, আপনি আপনি যদি জিনিসটা আইটি ডিপার্টমেন্টকে দিয়ে একটু চেক করে নেন এবং এটাকে যদি নেসেসারি টুকু শুধু আপনি আমাদের জন্য নিয়ে আসেন, তো আমাদের জন্য আরেকটু ভালো হবে, সময় বাঁচবে আর কি। না হলে তো আননেসেসারি সবার কনভারসেশন একদম বিগিনিং থেকে যেটা আরম্ভ হয় আমাদের অনেক সময় হয়ে যায়। প্লিজ এটা
ঠিক আছে স্যার, আমি
হয় আপনারা দিয়েছেন দিতে পারেন আইডি ডিপার্টমেন্টের সহযোগিতায় আমরা আরেকটু সময় আমাদের বাঁচবে, আমরা আরেকটু উপকৃত হব। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
ঠিক আছে স্যার। জি,
আমি একটু বলতে চাইছিলাম আর কি এডিটের ব্যাপারে।
Yes, Miss Namaste.
Ken, I think we can start. You can mute all of them, so you can start the session.
Okay, give me 1 minute to respond to some questions coming in, and then I'll start. Okay, welcome everyone to day 2 of our training session. We will be recording this session, and we will be also sending out the recordings afterwards. My request for everybody is that when you first join this session, please mute yourself, and if possible, please turn off your camera because there is a large number of us. We want to make sure we use as little bandwidth as possible so everyone's receiving the good quality video from my side. So I will also stop my camera now, and we can jump into our engagement file. So just a quick recap on where
Ken, I think.
Sorry, Asin, can you just repeat yourself? I accidentally muted you. Can you please unmute yourself and
No, it's fine. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a quick recap on where we finished off on Thursday, and a little housekeeping, and then we will begin into the day 2's timetable. So on day 1, on Thursday, at the end of that training session, I had imported a trial balance. So I have a trial balance already in my engagement file. And I have gone into my materiality document under planning folder. In the materiality folder here, I have found my materiality document and filled in my materiality. And then I came down to the next document, which was the FSA financial statements document. And I went through, determined my materiality for different sections or different areas, and determined the materiality for all the different financial statement areas. Then we came up into the AOCR document under the engagement file setup folder, and I removed a number of different areas that were immaterial. So for example, if we come into the asset section now, you will see that a large number of areas have been removed from the file, things like investment, that has all been taken out because there were no balances or immaterial balances, okay? I'm jumping around a lot with all the different documents. One thing I want to give you as a tip here, if you're writing down notes, you can write this down. Within Caseware, anywhere within Caseware, Control F. Control F brings up the find feature or the search feature. So if I'm saying, oh, open up your materiality or go to your materiality, and you go, where's the materiality document? Because you're brand new to this, you're not sure where the document is. The search function will be really helpful because I can just type materiality and then click next, and Caseware will highlight the materiality section for me. Okay, so if everything is hidden like this, and I go show me materiality, Caseware will take me straight down to the materiality document. Okay, if I say show me inventory, I can type in inventory and then go next, and Caseware will find controls design inventory document. Well, that's not the one I'm looking for.
And sorry to interrupt, can you share the screen?
Oh,
No, but we cannot see anything.
let me double check. Sorry, everyone. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay, sorry about this. So let's go through that again. Okay, so the on Thursday's training, what we had done at the end of the training was we had imported a trial balance. So you can see I already have a trial balance that is fully mapped into my file. Those balances, I then went into my materiality document, which was under planning. Okay, I determined my materiality amount, and then I moved into the next document on the list, which was the FSA document, the financial statement areas document, using the provided materiality or using the materiality that we had already determined. Each different financial statement areas was determined to be material or not. And then I came back up into the AOCR, the confirmation report document, under the engagement file setup folder in here. And I removed all the unnecessary areas with zero balances or immaterial balances. For example, under asset, you will see that there is no longer an investment area in here, which means we don't have to do any testing or any work within the investment section because there is no investment balance or an immaterial investment balance. Okay, so a quick tip here. Control F. On the keyboard, if I hit Control F anywhere in my file or anywhere within Caseware Working Papers, you will bring up the search bar or the search menu. Okay, so while I'm in here, if I say, well, I don't know where my materiality document is, I can't find my materiality document, or I'm not used to where the structure is, I can quickly just type MATE, just part of the word or the entire word here. Okay, materiality, and then when I click next, Caseware will highlight, there we go, I found one item called materiality. If I click next again, they go, this is the next item in the list with the word materiality in the name. If I wanted to look for something belonging to inventory, I can then type inventory in here. Okay, go to the next document. Well, this is not the inventory document I'm looking for. That's fine. Click next again. Now we are in the plans and procedures section. This is my inventory audit procedure. Okay, that's the document I'm looking for. That's the document I want to work in. Okay, so the Control F find feature will help you quickly find documents within this list if you're looking to go straight to a direct area. If not, you can always also come back out to the digital dashboard that you see here. And I can also click under assets. And these are all the asset sections that we have to audit in our file, and I can find the inventory section in here as well. So depending on how you want to reach an area or access an area, you have a few options here. Okay, so let's continue on from day one. Now, this is the first topic we're going to look at in here. So what happens after I have removed all the unnecessary documents? So I don't know what to do next. So I come back into my digital dashboard. Okay, we have determined materiality. We've completed materiality. We have determined our financial statement areas. Okay, so the next section here are my risk assessment procedures. So if I open this up, you have 501 and 525. So let's close this and have a quick look at those documents. Risk assessment procedures, 501 and 525. 501 document is our ratios document. Now, there is no work required in here. It's simply a document that we have created for you to generate a number of different ratios based on the trial balance that you have imported into the file. So you can come in here and I can choose all these different ratios. So if you're familiar with it, liquidity ratio, which is our current ratio, working capital, I can say, okay, I want to see all the different ratios available. And as I click that, all these different ratios become available. And when I scroll down to the bottom here, you will now see the current ratio and all the different tables or graphs that it fills out for you. Okay, so you have the actual ratio itself. How did we reach 1.38? We basically took all your current asset accounts and divided by current liabilities, and that's how we got 1.38. That was the current ratio for 2021. For 2020, it was 0.55, and then for 2019, it was 0.2. I didn't have to do any work in here. This is simply coming from the trial balance that I have downloaded into my file and mapped. Okay, what you can do here, you can also create what we call a budget. So if the budgeted or expected current ratio was 1.2, I can key that in manually because it's a green cell. And Caseware will put a nice little comparison next to it. Same thing here. If I say this should have been 0.5, there we go. And this should have been 0.4. So you can see a nice little comparison in there. So I have a question here. How can we compare with other companies in the same industry? This is how you use this column here. We call it budget, but you can change it because it is a green cell. So I might say industry standard, and it will just say industry standard here. Okay. Then you can come into the comment section and you can add any extra comment that you want. This isn't really part of the audit. It's just a report that may help you or may not help you. It's up to you whether you choose to use it. But from what I can advise you is this will give you a great value add that you can generate this report. Not much work required if you don't fill in all the extra information. I can then go to File, Export to PDF, and then hand it to my client and say, oh, by the way, here are a number of different ratios for your management team to look through and understand your performances or company information. So this is a very, very quick, cheap, easy win if you want to provide, after you provide extra service to your client. Okay, so that's all the liquidity ratio that I have. I can then come back into the table of contents. So I'll scroll back up again, and you will see I only have activated liquidity ratios. You can go through and activate all the other different ratios. So under activity ratios, if you say, oh, well, this client they don't have inventory, I don't need to look at inventory, I can turn that off. Where it is blue and doesn't have a tick, it will not show in one of the tables below. Okay, I'm not going to go through this in detail because they all work the same way. You simply just activate the area you want, and Caseware will then give you a nice little table with a comparison if you want to fill it in. Now, back to that question, what if it's industry standard instead of budget? Okay, see this field here, because it says budget, all the comparison says budget. I can drop that down. I can change it to say industry standard. I can change it to say standard. I can change it to say expectation if you want to, simply by typing into this box here. And if you come into the settings area and you type it into the expectation section here, then when I scroll down to the rest of it, they will all automatically say expectation instead of budget. So at the very top, you can make a global change where all the fields will say expectation, or you can come down to each individual one. If this one should be industry standard, I can then type to override just one field. Okay. And then you have this little field here that says planning can be locked. So we have the ability to lock the planning balance at this point in time. Don't forget, we are currently only looking at the planning balance. The trial balance that has been provided to us is only based on the 10-month balance. Okay. Later today, I'm going to import the full 12-month balance that the client has provided us. And then we can have 2 separate documents, one for planning and one for final. It's really, really important because if a regulator comes to you and say, hey, you made a lot of weird decisions during your planning, why was that? You can say, oh, well, based on all these planning balances or planning information that we were given at that time, it looked like the best information available. So that's why we reached this decision. Okay, so that's why inside of Caseware there is multiple planning areas versus final area. So if you're ready to complete the planning, you simply lock this button. Okay, and then when you import the final balance, you simply tick final, and Caseware will give you the ability to describe the expectation. Okay. In here, we also have shares. So when you go down to, I believe it was price earning ratios, it will ask you to input the share information, number of shares, and the market price of share to provide you with price earning ratio. You can fill that in and those tables will automatically generate for you. Okay, so how can we compare year-over-year data? Kazi, yes, you remember in this file, we imported 3 years worth of trial balance data. You can import up to 5 years if you want. So because I've only imported 3 years, we only have 3-year comparisons. If you've imported 5 years worth of trial balance data, then you will have the ability to select 5 years in here. And when I go down to the bottom of the table, you will have a table that spreads over 5 years. So I believe it was you who asked on day one if it's important to import prior year data. That's why this is important, because we will calculate and make all these comparisons for you. Okay. And another question here, do we have to save? Yes, so as on day one, I mentioned, while we are inside of Caseware working papers, everything is automatic. We don't have to save any work in here. But when I open up a case view document, this is the case view document icon. When I open this case view document, you will be required to save, and the software will tell you that. So when I'm done with this document, I can click the home button here to return back to the front screen, which will automatically save my file. If I'm not sure whether I need to save this document, I can click the close button at the top here. Okay. If I click the close button, it's going to say, do you want to save? Now, if I say discard all, that's very clear. Throw everything that I've just done away. Remove it all. Don't save it. But I want to, so I'm going to tell Caseware, yes, save the work that I've just done. And that will then save that document, and I will come back out to my Caseware working papers file. Okay. The next document that we have in here is an analytical review preliminary balance document. So let's open this up. This is a very, very quick document. Not much you can do in here at the moment. But once again, based on the trial balance information that you have imported, we have calculated your gross margin for you. How did we get to 1.381 million? That was revenue less cost of sales. Okay. These are all our expenses. This is our net income. These are our assets. These are our non-current asset, total current asset, total asset. So this document here, basically what I'm going to do when the client provides me with their trial balance from their accounting package or accounting software, I can also say, well, can I please get your current preliminary income statement or trial balance? They say, yep, here you go. This is the PDF for it. I take that and I compare it to my balance here. So if their financial statement says 1.6 million in gross margin, then I'm going to say, hang on, something's wrong here because Caseware tells me I have 1.381. So I need to go and investigate what has happened. Maybe they filed something differently, or maybe they classified something differently, or maybe we misunderstood those accounts and we classified them incorrectly. So we need to look into those details. And how do I look into those details? You can see the accounts in here. So revenue has 2.475 million. So I look at their revenue figure and say, well, they have got 2.8 million. Let's look at why they have 2.8 million in revenue, but we only have 2.475 million in revenue. Okay, and then that's where you figure out, okay, they classified something wrong, or okay, we classified something wrong, and we have a different report. Okay. The next document here, going concern. So this is one of those documents that will require you to do a bit of work. So this is like the previous documents we have already looked at. Very, very simple. Read the question, consider whether any adverse conditions, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, yes, there are, or no, there are none. Okay. While we're in here, because you're brand new to Caseware, want to point out a few things. Like I did already on Thursday, display document guidance shows you the objective of this document and how to use this document. The relevant ISA that you're meeting by completing this document. Okay. Also further down in the list, anytime you see this icon, it tells you that it means that there are additional guidances for you. If I don't know what to do, if I'm not sure what to do in here, look for the guidances and Caseware will give you additional information. So you see this little I button, click that, and it says, consider the following. So if I'm not an auditor and I go, oh, what do I have to do to consider? Well, Caseware would say, consider if they are facing insufficient equity, inability to obtain borrowing, indication of withdrawal, go through all of this. Oh, yes, there are problems here. So, okay, then I say, yes, there are issues. And that will activate a green box for you. Bank won't lend them any more money. Okay. And we can then sign it off, or we can make references later. Okay. So to go through this document, and then at the bottom here, you can say there are identified issues or there are no identified issues. Okay. So I've got a few questions here. Financial statements may have prior year adjustments in the statement. We will talk a little bit about the financial statements later on, but we don't have a separate adjusted financial prior year statements. We only have the current year adjustment because we're worried about the current year adjustments only. Prior year, you simply get one column with the final balance there, okay? Musharraf. And comprehensive income. Okay, so in the analytical review document here, we don't have one, but let me just pause there for a moment. And we're going to have a quick look. Okay, so if everybody can look at the completion documents folder at the very bottom. So let me just refresh everything. Completion document folder here. Under the financial statements and audit report, there is a set of simple statements. Now, this set of financial statements is not something that you can use to report. It's just a very quick report that has taken all the information available for you. So you have a income for the year. That's the best that we can do, given the information that has been provided to Caseware. Okay, so you do have an income before taxes from continuing operations, net income for the year, based on all the information that you have provided to Caseware and imported into the file. And that document is document 106, simple statement. Okay. And that's sitting in the completion document section. So we usually look at that at the very end of the cycle, but it is something you also can reach out to now. One other thing I'm going to quickly just pause here to talk about. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen this. I've done this a fair bit now, but if I collapse this planning folder and then I reopen, it's still a mess on the inside, depending on what I had last opened. Once again, using the Shift key on my keyboard, if I hold that down and then click the collapse, it basically collapses everything. It's almost like a reset, and that will then clean up. And so I can quickly find documents or folders that way. That's using the Shift key on my keyboard. Okay, coming back in now, we're still in the risk assessment stage. We've looked at our analytical review. We now move into the understanding the entity document. So this is a really important document because you're doing your testing, your planning, you're doing your planning first to understand this engagement. You'll notice that Caseware pays a lot of attention to the planning and assessment stage, simply because by making sure that you have a good plan and good assessment, when we now move next into the risk response stage and actually do the audit work, you have the most efficient list of work available. Because if you don't plan properly, if you haven't made the correct assessment, when you go in, you might say, oh, we don't need this. Oh, we made a mistake there. Oh, we're missing this. Oh, we're missing that. Then you have to go and scramble and get all that information again. So we focus a lot on planning and assessment within the audit to make sure that when we get to the next stage, all you have to do is say, all right, let's go. We don't have to think about, did I do this correctly? Did I think about that? Have I considered this? Have I planned that correctly? It's all already done in the planning and assessment stage. Okay, so 510, identifying risk through understanding the entity. Let's open this document up. This document looks just like any other document we've seen before. So you can see the operating name, the financial year end period, the address, all of that has been filled in for me because on day one, I had already filled that in. Okay, you can then go through into all the green boxes and fill in all the required information. Now, this is required under ISA 315.11a. So if you ever question this and say, why do I have to do this? The ISA, the relevant ISA requirement is sitting in here. Okay, so general description, industry, regulatory and external factors. You can comment and make proof in here. Okay, you can also associate your proof using this plus button. So I have a question here from someone that says, how do I import supporting documents? We will talk about that a bit later today, but I just want you to pay attention to this little plus button. That is the annotation button I will show you how to use towards the end of today's training session. So all of these work papers, every one of these that I have looked at, you may not have noticed it, you may have noticed it, but there is a little plus button that allows you to make a working paper reference. So if I have a email, I have a news article that I have read and say, oh, for this company, they have some issues. Maybe, this motor company has been faking their exhaust levels. They're polluting more than they said they were. So they're getting investigated by the government officials, and there's going to be a huge fine coming in. People are going to go to jail, blah, 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 all of that information. So I have news articles, I have news reports, I have government reports coming out. I can download all of that into PDFs, into Word, into pictures. I can save them in this audit file, and then using this plus button, I can link it to those articles. So when a reviewer comes in, it will appear in here and say, due to all these reports, due to all these articles, we have decided that these are all the decisions we made in identifying the issues or understanding the entity. Okay. So as we go through this, we've already covered all the green boxes. You've got to fill in your answers. So as we go through this, we may find that there are risks that we have found in this file. So we've got, oh, yeah, they have this issue, they have that issue. Someone has been stealing from this company. So I need to come into the new risk button here and document a risk in my file. And this is important. We highly, highly, highly recommend that you document the risk using our risk module. So, quick question here. Any limitations of text in writing the answer? All the green cells do not have any limitations. You can type as much as you want, and we recommend you be as detailed as possible. Because if you're missing any detail, a regulator will have to call you up and say, can you please answer this? Or can you please explain this? So there is no limitation to the text. In certain fields, like this date field here, instead of typing in the date yourself, okay, so it won't let you type that. You can click on this button to choose the date, okay? Certain fields you are forced to answer a specific way, but in these green boxes here, you can type as much text as you need. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the risk module. So within Caseware, we have built a nice little screen, a nice little area for you to document all your risks. We also have a controls module. So anytime your client has controls that they have set up in their company, you can also document them in the file. And then to the right, we have another module called reportable items. So at the very end of my audit, I have found problems. I have gone to management and they say, no, Ken, don't bother me with this rubbish. I'm not listening to you. Well, then I need to report this to the management team, to those charged with government, those charged with governance, or maybe the owner. So I need to have items put into my management letter, my audit report. Those are what we call our reportable items. Every case view document will have this option here. So it doesn't matter where you are in the audit. As soon as you're working on something and you go, hang on, this is a problem, I need to report this, you can click this green button to create a new reportable item. Anytime you find a control, you can click the blue button to create a control. Anytime you find a risk, you can click this red button to create a risk. Okay? That is within case view documents. Inside of Caseware, you will also see the same 3 buttons here. So there is no excuse to anybody that says, oh yeah, I'll do it later, because it doesn't matter where you are in the file. Through one click, I can create a risk, a control, or a reportable item. Okay. So let's start by creating a new risk. Now, in this file, as I sat down with my team, we started discussing, we spoke to some of the people from the management team at Motor Company A, and we found some risks. We found some risks that they have issues. So in here, I can choose new risk or to import risk. We'll talk about import risk a bit later. I'm going to go into new risk here first. This is going to launch what we call our risk module, our risk dialog. Okay, nice little screen with all the information we need from you to document a risk. So from this here, as we were walking through the audit with the team, or we were talking with the team, someone said, oh yeah, I spoke to one of the staff members. Apparently all their receivables, some of them might be overdue, and we don't know which one's overdue, and we don't know which one is still pending, and blah blah blah. So that's an issue there, because the receivables that they have given us could be wrong. So okay, that's a problem. So we need to be aware of that. So this risk, I'm going to call this overdue receivables. Okay. describe the risk. So I'm going to copy this because I've actually prepared the wording. I don't want to type it out. So overdue receivables, according to some of the walkthroughs, overdue receivables were not follow up on a timely basis. They could have turned into bad debt already. Okay. What could go wrong? Well, if receivables were not collected at an incorrect time, there could be an impact on cash flow, profitability, continuance, blah, blah, blah. So you fill that in the next box. Okay, so name of the risk, what description, what is the risk, what has been going wrong? Sorry, what have they been doing? Then what could go wrong? If they didn't collect the receivables, this is the impact. Put in your description. Okay, then the source or the reference. So in here, when I click on 510, you are going to find a list of all the documents available in your file. So if I go to planning, you should see materiality there. You should see the time budget discussion, all of this information in here. Okay, every document in my file is showing on this list. If you drag a Word, Excel, PDF document, or an email document in here, it would appear in this list. And the reason for this source is for me to justify, based on this email, based on this article, based on this discussion, where did you, what happened in the audit for you to determine that this was a risk? So I'm going to say 510, during the understanding the entity phase of this audit, we had a discussion with the staff and we found that overdue receivable is a problem for this client. Okay. Financial statement areas. What does this risk affect? So let's open this up. You have two types of financial statement areas. You have a business level or entity level, which means it affects the entire entity. So for example, if they hired an ex-convict, he was convicted of financial fraud. So, and he's the CFO, which means he touches all the accounts. So all the accounts is now under suspicion. So if I choose fraud, which means everything you do from now on, you have to think about, has the CFO touched this? Could there be fraud? Could there be an issue with the balance? Can we trust the records? Okay, that's on the entire entity. Now, overdue receivables is not the entire engagement. Overdue receivables only affect my receivables. So for here, I'm going to say overdue receivables will affect my current and non-current receivables, and as well as my revenue. Okay, it doesn't affect property, plant, equipment. It doesn't affect inventory. So I tell Caseware this only affects receivables, current and non-current, and potentially my revenue. So then we got to come and tell Caseware which assertion does it affect. We have 4 assertions available here. You have the completeness, existence, accuracy and valuation, presentation, and disclosure. So for this, we determined that it affects my completeness and existence of receivables, as well as the completeness, existence, accuracy, and valuation of revenue. Now, if you're sitting there going, hey, I want more than these 4 assertions, it is possible you will have to perform a firm template, okay? But let's talk about that a little bit later, because this becomes a much more complex, much more advanced usage. For now, we're just going to assume you are going to follow the assertions available or given to us by Caseware. So I've got a question here: how does overdue receivables impact in revenue? Maruf, this is an example. I can't explain why. It's up to the auditor's judgment. You don't follow exactly what I'm saying here. So it's your judgment. If you say, well, it doesn't affect revenue, okay, then you can remove revenue from this risk, okay? I'm just making an example here to tell you that it affects all three of these areas. The decision in here that you make in terms of which area it affects is down to the auditor or down to you to make that decision. Okay. Another question here, what to do if a figure of a line item in the financial statement comes up incorrect? So like I mentioned previously, if it's wrong, you need to investigate why it was wrong. And if the error is on your side, then you have to remap the trial balance or post an adjustment to that line item. If it's wrong on your client side, then you will need to ask them to make the adjustment on their own accounting software. Okay. So looking at the financial area here, we are also split the financial area into two sections. You have your material financial area, and then further down below, you have your immaterial financial area. So Caseware do clearly separate the two. And from there, I click OK. And Caseware will then give us a nice little report here. So receivables, non-current, these are the two assertions affected. Revenue, these are the three assertions affected. Okay, and based on this, Caseware also says that the business cycles that are affected are your revenue, receivables, and receipt business cycles. So we have 6 business cycles here. And Caseware has said, based on the financial statement areas that you have chosen, it only affects the revenue, receivables, and receipt business cycles. If you think it affects something else, but maybe it also affects purchases, maybe it also affects payroll, you can change that manually yourself, or you can add that manually yourself. Okay, that is all up to you. Once again, I have to stress this. Caseware is a tool. It's supposed to help you. Ultimately, the person who makes the decision is still in charge. The software is not in charge. We give you recommendation. Okay, so if you took this and you made a decision and say purchases, payables, and payments should also be included, you can manually override that. Another question here, do we have to set what could go wrong and controls for every line item or just anything above materiality? Fayaz, that comes down to your judgment again, okay? I cannot tell you which is the correct way to do it. It's up to you. Once again, if you over audit, is that better than under auditing? If you don't identify everything, will a regulator pick you up on that and say, hang on, no, that's not, I don't agree with that. I need to redo this, or I'm going to say that you have done something wrong here. So it's your decision as to how much you record in this, okay? So once we have put all this in, I can always click OK and apply to save or save and exit. At any point in time, I can always come back into this file. So I'm going to click OK now, and that would save the work. If at a later time I want to come back to it, I can simply click on the new risk button again, and using what we call our doormat feature, I can come down and look for the overdue receivables risk. You see, I have actually recorded a number of different risks in my file already. So I'm going to come into the overdue receivables risk here. Okay, and then we can continue again. Obviously, as we go through the audit, we find, oh, hang on, sorry, it doesn't affect revenues. We made a mistake here. I can click in here and I can remove and say it no longer affects revenue. So you can always come back and make changes as more information becomes available to you, as more testing is done in this file. So here, the next thing we need to do is make our assessment. Once we have the appropriate information at hand, I can make the assessment here. I'm going to say this is a medium risk item. Okay. You have the ability then to also select a control risk. I'm going to leave this blank because it can be automated. So I'm going to leave this blank to have automation when I go and document my controls. Then my risk of material misstatement. So if both of these were medium, Caseware will automatically select medium for us. Okay, if one of these is low, then we would choose the aggregate of both and give you low. If I say it has high inherent risk and low control risk, then Caseware will take the aggregate or average of both and give us a medium risk of material misstatement. This is really important because we need to assess each area or each risk, and from there, Caseware will make the assessment for receivables. So it says, oh, based on the 5 risks that you have identified here and all the levels of risk that you have assessed, we think it is low, medium, or high risk. So if it's low risk, you can get away with doing less testing. If it was high risk, you would have to do the complete set of testing in the entire area. So that's where the assessment comes into play. Okay, I'm going to leave both of these as automated, and then when we go and document the control, it would then update itself with the appropriate information. The next 2 fields, significant risk. So is this a significant risk? Well, once again, it comes into your judgment. I'm going to say low here, sorry. So it comes into your judgment. Okay, if you go, yeah, this is a big deal, I'm going to mark this as significant. If you say no, I'm not going to. This is a small risk, very, very low risk. We only found 1 instance of this. Everybody has been trained up since then. Blah blah blah. Okay, so it's not a significant risk. Now, once again, it's up to you. I have seen clients that made a policy that says if it's not a significant risk, do not document it inside of Caseware. That is their policy. They can justify it to their country's regulators. Okay, and I have seen other people that says I don't care. Every single risk, even if it was a tiny risk, where they have maybe a petty cash of $100 in a multi-billion-dollar company, and it's sitting in someone's wallet, I want that documented. So that it comes down to your firm and what the policy is when it comes to documenting this risk. So I'm going to say this is a significant risk, and I'm also going to say roll forward. Now, this is really important because you think, if this risk is going to be something that's happening every year that I have to consider every year, do I want to come in next year and fill all this out again? If the answer is no, and I'm sure it's going to be there, I will tell Caseware to roll forward, which means when I create my 2022 file, this risk will automatically appear in that file for us. Okay. So there's a question here. Is there any way to document the reasoning? So yes, the documentation will appear in the audit response or the managed response field. There isn't actually a very, very good question. There isn't actually an area to specifically document that. So I would probably put it under the audit response section to say due to XYZ reasons, we had high or low risk selected, and because there is no text limit, you can type as much as you want in here. Okay. So moving on, I can now save this and come back later and fill in the rest. I don't want to keep going in and out because it's going to take too long. So as we reach the risk response stage, what was the management response when we raised this to them? So halfway through the audit, we sat down with the management team and we say, hey guys, this is a problem, blah, blah, blah. And they go, nah, we don't care about it, or we'll implement all this. So you can then document the management's response. Management has decided to implement XYZ policy, blah, 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 you put that in, okay? Has the risk then be treated, or is there any mitigation? So yes, it's fully mitigated. Whatever policy they put in, and they have been following that, fully mitigates the risk. or they say, yeah, they did some, it's not full. You know, previously there were 10 overdue receivables, now we're finding 1 or 2. So there is some mitigation or treatment, but not fully. So we can say some, or there are none. So you can select the answer in here based on the management response. And has the audit properly addressed this risk? So I'm going to say yes here, and we're going to move to the next section, which is where was it addressed? So this is really important because when I click in here, once again, you're going to see a list of all the different documents available. So in my non-current receivables audit procedure and analytical procedure, in my current receivables audit procedure document and supplementary procedure and analytical procedures and test of details, this is where we are going to deal with this risk. Okay. Also, I can come down into the income statement folder under my revenue section. In my audit procedures for revenue, I will also deal with this risk. I will, in my testing of all 3 of these sections, I will deal with that risk. So Caseware puts it in here. So I can tell when I'm a reviewer and I come in and say, well, what did you do to test overdue receivables? These are the documents available. Okay. If you want to, you can also use the search button to say, give me all receivables. And you will see all the receivables document. Maybe in the control testing, we have done that as well, or under revenue. So these are all the revenue sections. Okay. That brings us to the end here. I can now click OK or apply to save. Cancel is going to cancel all the work that I've done, and I'll lose all the work there. So I'm going to click apply to save the work. Okay. You then have the ability to associate with a specific control or a reportable item. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. Any questions to do with risk and documenting risk? Okay, doesn't look like there are any questions. If you do have, please feel free to type your answer in, or you can raise your hand and Afseen can unmute you. Okay, I'll move on now, but if any question comes in, we'll go back into it. Okay. So after I have documented my risk, I can come into this menu here, and you will find a list of all the risks I have in this file. So we have the continued growth risk. Basically, through our testing, we realized, or conversation, we think that there is a continued growth issue with this company. Okay, downturn in economy, fictitious sales, all that different risk is documented in here. So using this menu, I can quickly jump to one of these risks. So for example, if I want to look at fictitious sales, there we go. It will take me into the fictitious sales risk. I can also then use the left and right button to cycle through all the different risks available. Okay. Once I have completed all my risks, let's come back into my document screen here. Sorry, once I have completed a risk, you can come into the identified risk folder, and we have 3 reports available for you. So this document shows me a list of every risk we have documented in this file. This shows me a report of all fraud risk, and this shows me a report of all business risk. So the top one will show me everything, including fraud and business. But if I only want to focus on fraud risk or business risk, I can then use one of these 2 documents. So let's open this up. And you will see a quick report of all the different risks available in here. Okay. Click on one of these risks to open and allows you to edit the risk. And same thing, once I'm in here, I can jump around to different risks. Okay. Using the view that is available to you, I can choose all the different types of views available. So this default view shows you the risk, date identified, all the information available. What does it affect? Is this a significant risk? And the risk level. So the stronger the red, the higher the risk. So if it's a really, really dull red, it's medium. Low risk is basically gray. So by looking at this table, I can quickly see, ooh, there are some really high risk here. Inventory, we need to focus on that. Downturn economy, low risk. You can see overdue receivables. I don't have a control or risk of material misstatement yet, so it is empty for now. Okay, you can filter by different types of risk to look at just my current receivable risk. Caseware will then show me all the risks that affects my current or non-current receivables. So downturn in economy affects current receivables of $30,000 balance. Downturn in economy overdue receivables affect non-current receivables with $130,000 balance. Okay, and revenue, these are all the risks that affects it. Okay, you can filter out using all these different filters. You can sort by identified date. You can sort by the different assertions it affects. You can sort by whether it's a significant risk or not. You can sort by business cycles that affect and whether it is a material area. Okay, so this is a report. I don't have to do anything in here, but if I wanted to, I can quickly just come in here and view the risk information. You can then also choose all these other different views. I don't have time to go through each and every one of them, but you can set this up. You can pick through this. Different people will require different view. If I was the manager or partner, I might want this risk to see all the information. If I was one of the junior auditors, I might just quickly look at the names of the risk. This is all I need. So depending on who you are, you can set up, you can pick the view that suits you. Okay. In here, when I right click on one of the top columns here, no. When I right click on the top of the column here, you can see a list of all the different columns available. So if I want to see date identified, I can click on that. Risk description, I can click on that now, and the column will activate and show you. So if I don't want to see it, I can untick it and it would hide. And then the idea here then is you can then save this view. Okay, create a new view called Ken's view, click OK. And now I have Ken's view in here. So if I go to risk identification, it won't have the date identified column. But if I go to Ken's view, we will have the date identified column there. So everyone can build their own view depending on what they want to see, or you can just use one of the views that we have provided for you. Okay. And obviously the most important thing here is the ability to then print this out. If you need to, if the management team or the owner of the company says, I don't know what you're talking about, can you give me some proof? Can you show me something? I can then go and file, export to PDF again, have a PDF report of this document and say, these are the reviews, these are the risks that I've identified. Obviously, if I'm going to do that, I'm not going to include too much information. So I'm going to choose the appropriate view to export. If you choose default view and then go and save or export, then they will see all of this information available. Okay. Cool. So that's after you have documented a view. So what happens if I have more risks that I want to document? you can always come back in here and click the red button. Now, an alternative to that is the ability to import risk from a different file. So let's say I have a different client who's also in the same exact industry, and they also have some risk that is similar to this company. Okay, I can sit there and I can go new risk and copy and create them, type them out manually each time, or import risk allows me to go to a different Caseware file and copy those risks from that Caseware file into my current Caseware file. So I've got a question here, just pause here for a moment. In the previous report, there is, what does it mean by P in the risk name column? That is the pervasive risk, which is the entity level risk. So if you mark under the financial statement area, if you choose business or fraud, it would show up as P in the risk name column, which means it affects the entire engagement. Okay, if it doesn't have, so if it's non-current receivables, you won't see the P. If it's business or fraud, you would see the P in the risk column. Okay, so the import risk feature here allows me to copy risk from a different engagement file into this engagement file. So the first scenario I gave you was they have two very, very similar business. So the risk affects both very, very similarly. Alternatively, the second scenario, and we see this in larger audit firms, is the partner or the manager will create a new blank Caseware audit file. No client data in there. It's just they create a new audit international file, and then they document a number of different risks in there. All the risks that they think, they say, oh, in our experience, there are 80 different risks that we will see in 90% of our audit engagements. They put all those risks, they document all the information they can in that file. Then, using the import risk feature, staff members are told to go into that file and copy the risk from that file. I don't want you to go and manually type it yourself, because when you're typing it manually, you're going to make mistakes. So I want you to just copy. So here, I'm going to use the import risk feature. It's going to ask me for a source. Okay, the source file is a Caseware file. So I'm going to browse to my desktop under my ICAB training folder, ABC Motor Company E. So let me show you. This is my desktop. Under ICAB training, I have a Caseware file. This is a Caseware file here called ABC Motor Company B. In this file, we have almost completed most of the audit engagement already, and we have a list of all the different risks available in here. That I want to copy some of those into my current file instead of having to manually type it out myself. Okay, this could be your risk library file if you decide that's how you want to do it. So open up the file, and I'm telling Caseware, go to this file and show me a list of all the risks in that file, and I want to copy them into my current file. So Caseware is reading the other file right now, ABC Motor Company B. We are in ABC Motor Company A. Okay, in ABC Motor Company B, you have all of these different risks in all these different business cycles. And a number of them actually already appear in my current file. So anything that's grayed out already appears in my file. So one of them is revenue recognition. Apparently we haven't been recognizing revenue correctly because there was a change in the standards. Everyone was making mistakes. So I want to copy that across. So I can tick that. And when I click OK here, Caseware is going to copy all the information from that revenue recognition risk in the other file and put it into my current file. There are no associated controls or reportable items. I'll talk a little bit about controls and reportable items and the association later. but there are none, so there is nothing else for me to choose. If I choose, oh, there are none. I don't actually have any associated, so that's fine. If there are any associated controls or reportable items, you can also then choose to copy them across from the other file. Okay, so revenue recognition here, I'm going to now click. Give me 1 second, I'm just quickly reading. Okay, I'm going to now click OK. And Caseware has now added the revenue recognition risk from the other file into this current file here. So I still have to review it because what was the risk response? Maybe in that audit engagement, it's smaller, so it's only $500. Maybe in here, I need to have a larger figure. So I have to change the information. It's not going to be 100% correct, but you have the ability now to review, change it, and then when I click OK, that risk is now saved into my file as well. Okay, that is a quick way to copy risk from a different file or from a risk library into your engagement file. Notice how quickly I just created a risk without having to go through each and every one of those line items. You can still edit them later, but I don't have to manually type them out and consider them individually. There is a risk space button here. Caseware risk space. So let's click that, and this is going to launch for us. Okay, this is a free service. I wouldn't get too attached to it because it has been planned for removal, but it's been planned for in that plans for like 2 years now. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but we're planning to remove this feature soon. Caseware Risk Space is a globally maintained library of risk that we have set up for you. So when I click on this risk space button, it opens up a website. I can review all risk controls, management letter points in a library. So if I wanted to browse by category, okay, you have entity level risk. These are all the entity level risks that you may want to consider. You can consider expenses, purchases, and payables risk. These are all the different risks available to you. It's a library, okay? So I can go expand all, and that would expand all the different risks. And let's just say I'm going to look for something to do with receivables. I can go Control F, once again, bring up this search feature. So under receivables here, credit balance, receivables not followed up, receivables overdue are not followed up on a timely basis. So these are some of the common risks within that would affect revenue, receipts, and receivables. Okay, if you click on one of these, it would then take you into a bit of more information. So what is the description here? What areas does it affect? Any associated controls. So if they had competent staff or resolved credit balance receivables, that it could be associated to that risk. If I've done the testing and I found issues, these are the management letter points we can suggest to the client to say, maybe this is something you need to look at or ensure or establish a specific policy. Okay, it's a library. It's whether you choose to use it is up to you. Whether it is suitable for you is also up to you. If you look at this and get, no, this is not suitable for us, for this client or whatsoever, then you do not use this. Okay, it's there if you want to use it. It's not 100% you must use kind of item. It's up to you and your own personal judgment. Okay. So that is all the different risks in here. Any questions? That's the end of the risk module, the risk section that we're going to talk about how to create risk. That's all we have available to us. So anybody has any questions they would like to ask so far? How is everyone feeling at the moment? Would we like a 5-minute or 10-minute break? Or is everyone happy to just keep going on? Yep. Okay, so let's, that was very quick, Gollum. Let's have a 10-minute break. I would also like to warn everyone, because, give me 1 second. Because it's a Saturday, I know we've only planned for 2.5 hours. This could potentially run for 3 hours, so we might finish at about 2 p.m. your time, if everyone's okay with that. Just want to put it out there. So let's have a quick 10-minute break. We will start again at 12:25. Okay. Okay, everyone. I'll just give everybody a minute to get back. Just wanted to confirm something here. if anyone hasn't installed the software or hasn't gotten the software installation yet, and you have paid for the Caseware software, please email Afseen, and she will then send you the appropriate emails, because the software installation has actually already been sent out about a month ago. If you never received it, please reach out to Afseen, and she will then coordinate and get you those installation again. Okay. Okay, so let's continue on with the next part of our training. So now, after recording the risk, I just wanted to quickly show you our FSA document again. So under the risk assessment document, our FSA document, like I mentioned on day one and in all my demos, this is the brains of our audit, because this is how we control the entire audit. Okay, so when I open up the FSA document, just want to confirm that everybody can see my screen. Yep, that's okay. So when I open up the FSA document here, all the risks that we have documented in the file, we were in the planning stage on day one. All the risks that we have documented so far is now going to show up in the risk column that you see here. Okay, so everyone can see this risk column at the end. Entity level risk, so the pervasive risk, any business or fraud risk that affects the entire engagement shows up at the top here. So there are 9 risks that affect the entire engagement and not one specific area. Okay, coming down, current and non-current receivables. You can see current receivables, there are 2 risks affecting non-current receivables as well as current receivables. And they were the overdue receivables risk that we documented and the downturn in economy risk that we also documented. Okay, the star tells me that one of them or both of them is significant. So if you compare that to inventory, there is an inventory clerk issue, but it's not determined to be a significant risk because there is no star there. Similarly, cash and cash equivalents, receipts not deposited, there was a risk identified. There was a risk identified, but it's not marked as significant because there is no star available. Okay. Further down, if I come down to revenue, you will see that there are 4 risks affecting revenue. So looking at this list here, I know I need to pay attention to revenue when we plan the work, because there are so many risks there, and anything with a star in front of the name is a significant risk. So downturn in economy, overdue receivables, and use of related parties, all affecting revenue, all determined as significant risk. There is also the fictitious sales risk that we've identified, but that's not a significant risk because there is no star in the name. Okay, then we come into the risk assessment stage here. Now, the risk assessment stage is where we can determine the inherent and control risk, but since we haven't documented our control risk, our controls yet, we don't have any of the risk rating available. Okay, so I'm not going to do any of this work in here yet. You can, at this point, start documenting inherent risk, but I don't want to. I will look at my controls first, then I can make the controls risk assessment, and then do the risk of material misstatement assessment all at the same time. So just wanted to show you the financial statement areas. Then I'm going to save this document now and come back out to my document manager here. So we're going to go back into understanding the entity because I've been using that a fair bit. So I'm going to come back in here again. But at this point, you could be in any document, you could be in any areas. As long as you identify a control, you can then click on the blue button to bring up the control dialog. So you start to see now the pattern here. Red for risk, blue for control, green for reportable items, okay? And when I open up different sections later, you'll see the same color here. So new control, and it brings up the same exact screen or similar screen that we had before, except this is blue, okay? If I went to the risk, it shows up as red. That's very important for us to identify what we're doing. Okay, so same thing in here. So we have a control that we've identified, and we want to record it in the file. So as part of my walkthrough or talking around, I realized that they have implemented a policy on staff training and hiring. So they want to improve staff competency. So one of the controls is competent staff here. Okay, and describe the control. So management has actually implemented a policy on staff training and staff hiring, and all management team, when they go for hiring, they have to follow a specific list of questions, specific list of policies. You can enter all of that information in here. Okay. Now, one of the first things I also want to do is associate this to specific risk. So I can click on the Edit Association button here, and I can say this control will actually fix a few of these risks in here. So fictitious sales, someone's been making wrong sales or fake sales. So we're going to, if we have competent staff, that's going to fix this issue, or that's going to help with this risk or lower this risk. Okay. Overdue receivables, that's one too. Revenue recognition, okay. Receipts not deposited. So general IT controls. So that's really, really, they haven't been using their software properly. That's one thing that we found. Well, if we start having better staff members, if we start having well-trained staff members, all of these items will become less of an issue. So I can associate those risks to this control here. Okay, which area does it affect? So once again, your personal judgment comes into play here. So for competent staff, maybe we'll say it's going to help improve my receivables. It's going to help improve my inventory. It's going to help improve cash and cash equivalents, revenue, receivables. So I'm going to just randomly pick a few. Do not use this as a real life example. I am not a proper auditor. I'm just making some guesses here in terms of what you choose. The decision on what to choose here comes down to your own personal judgment, okay? So I'm going to say it's going to help with all these different assertions. Okay, and I'm just going to use the material ones because my firm has a policy. We don't have to worry about anything that's not material. Okay, so select that. And by choosing the financial statement areas, Caseware has automatically selected the business cycles for us. So once again, by selecting those financial statement areas, you are going to be affecting the inventory, the purchases, payables, and payments business cycles, as well as the revenue, receivables, and receipts business cycles. Okay, click OK, and that's documented there. So like our risk, we can always come back anytime in the future and change them once we learn more about this control. So as we go through our work, we can now document, is this a manual or automated control? Well, training and hiring, that's all manual. So I can tell Caseware this is a manual control. Is this a key control? Actually, yes, because it's doing a lot of things. This company was terribly run. Having competent staff is going to make the audit much easier. So yes, this is a key control that we need to be aware of. Okay. Any supporting work papers? So when I click on this, once again, you're going to find a list of all the documents available in your file. If you have a Word document, if you're an Excel document, you can link it in here and it will appear as a list. I haven't got anything yet, so I will not choose any supporting Word documents just yet. Or do you have you gone through the control design? Yes, we have. So as part of our evaluation, we are satisfied with the control design or we are not satisfied. Okay, we haven't walked through the control design yet, so I'm going to leave that blank. Was the design implemented? Did they just put out a policy and no one followed it? Maybe, maybe not. So depending on whether they followed the controls, the policy, yes or no. What was your evaluation result? So you did a walkthrough. Were you satisfied? Were you unsatisfied with the result? And then you have the ability to roll this forward as well. So I don't have to do all of this again next year. Automatically, when I create my 2022 file, I will have this control in that file. Okay. Do we need to test this control? Yes, if I am going to test this control, I can choose yes here. Or I have done the walkthrough and everything is fine. It looks like nothing has changed. And I tested this control last year. So I don't have to test it again this year. So if that was the case, I can say try year one tested, which means I tested this last year. So I don't have to test it again. Okay. Are there any supporting work papers? If you did the testing, where is your test of controls document? Where is the test of controls procedure? So you can, we don't give you test of controls procedure. You need to create those yourself. And either later today or first thing on Monday, I will show you how to create those procedures. You can then link those procedures to this control here, so that when a reviewer comes in and says, well, you said you tested the controls, where are the steps? Where are the evidence? You can link it to this box by clicking on that box there and tick. So I tested loans and receivables in the audit procedure. Under controls testing, I had some procedures in there. Okay. Based on your testing, was the controls effective? Yes or no? So if you had prior year one tested, then you can say it was not tested this year. Okay. I had a question here. Where do we attach walkthrough work papers? Fayaz, give me 1 second and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Okay. So once you have all your test of control and your walkthrough work papers attached in here, the final bit is the association. So this is associated to fictitious sale, general IT controls, blah, blah, blah. Now, is this going to prevent or detect a risk? So having competent staff is going to prevent and potentially detect. So I can tick both. And based on your own judgment, you can go through. I'm just going to randomly pick a few so that you can see it later on how it shows up. Okay. So once you have your controls recorded, you can come in here and you will now find a list of all the different controls, like we have a list of all the different risks in here. So I'm going to open up the approvals control here. Fayaz has a question. Where do we attach the walkthrough work papers? Now you can see the supporting work paper here, 1500126. When I click on that, you'll see I have selected 1500126. Okay, that is the approval policy workthrough. It's a Word document. So within my document manager, what I had done, it was under revenue, sorry, I think it was. Yeah, under revenue. So let's start again. Within my document manager, under my revenue section, I had actually pulled in, dragged and dropped in 2 Word documents in here. So as soon as you upload the Word document, the PDF, the Excel document into your document manager, when you click on this box here for the supporting working papers, it would then appear in this list. So if I wanted to quickly look for it using this search function, I can type 1500 and Caseware will show you all the 1500 documents. Okay. If I have also done my walkthrough in here, I can tick this and Caseware will say working papers, supporting work papers 126 and 127. So you have that document there. The reviewer comes in and goes, where was the supporting documents? Oh, it's right there. So they can go into the Caseware file and find it in here. Now, this is really important because I filed it inside of Caseware. Okay, if I filed this in a different server on a cloud somewhere on my Google Drive, stored somewhere else, you won't be able to link it to here because it's not part of the file. Remember, I talked about on day one, when someone comes in and says, hey, give me your audit file, you should be able to take this Caseware file, hand it to them and say, everything is in there. I don't have to say, oh, you got to log into this Google location to find this. You got to come walk into my office under this shelf here, pick out this document. Some of the testing is done there. Some of the evidence is stored here. Some on this server. Some is on that location. Everything's everywhere. That should not be the case. I have put everything in this document manager here with a link to each and every piece of evidence that is required. Okay, so same thing here for approval. As part of the fictitious sale, we notice that there is now a control that has been put in for non-routine approval policy. So if a non-routine sales happen, it needs to be approved by so and so and so. Areas it affects, business cycles, is this a manual or automated control? Were you satisfied with the control design? Okay, so if it's not, we then created a fictitious sale or incorrect sales reportable item. And we'll talk about reportable items. Hopefully we have time today, but if not, we'll talk about reportable items on Monday. Okay, so that is now the controls completed. Going to save. So I click OK here to save that work. And just like we did with the risk report, we now have the controls design section. Now, we have a control report as well, okay? But the control report is actually split into the 7 different business cycles available. Oh, sorry, 6 business cycles. And there is a general entity level and general IT controls report. So if I opened up, I know my receivables. I know there were lots of receivables controls in there. So in this file, if I open up the receivables controls testing, the controls design document, you will see these are the 3 controls that affected my revenues, receivables, or receipts. Okay, if you click into it again, it's going to open up that control, which allows you to edit the control. More importantly, it provides a list of all the information. Were you satisfied with the design? Were you satisfied with the evaluation? Is this a key control? Is this an automated control? Have you done any testing? And then when we come all the way to the right side here, is it effective? Do we have any reportable items? All of this is shown to you in a nice little table. And then we have a list of all the risks that are linked to these controls. Okay, receipts not deposited, use of related party, overdue receivables. That is a risk that was linked to this control here. What's the control in the middle? Competent staff. The competent staff was one that I linked to overdue receivables. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here for a moment. Hopefully you can follow along. Competent staff here, the second line, is linked to my overdue receivables. How do I know that? Because it prevents overdue receivables. Okay, it detects receipts not deposited. Okay, so very, very quickly, we have a nice table here that links your different risks to the different controls that we have identified. Now, at the very bottom here, within the risk, I'm not sure if you remembered, but when I look at the risk, it says, has the risk been treated or mitigated? By answering yes in here, it also shows up as a yes or no. So if this risk, use of related party, has not been treated or mitigated, I need to pay special attention to it because there is no prevention or detection of use of related parties with a control. Okay, so I need to pay very, very close attention to this risk. Now, then you come back into your document manager, like you say, where do I put my walkthrough work papers? You can come in here, and what you can do, right click, new folder, and I can go walkthrough evidence or walkthrough document. Okay, you can document all of your walkthrough in here and any testing of your controls in here, in this folder. Or you can put them wherever you want. You can go directly into, say, revenue, like I did previously, and put the documents in there. But ultimately, once you have done all your walkthroughs, you need to come back into these files here, 545, from 545 to 562. You need to come back into each and every one of these documents, and you need to make the control risk assessment. So in each of these documents, you will see a question here. Do controls exist for the risk? Yes. Okay. It affects completeness, existence, and accuracy in valuation. So far, none of those risks affects presentation and disclosure. Therefore, Caseware has not automatically answered it for you. You can choose to answer yes or no yourself. The 3 yeses that you see here, you can also change. But if you choose to change it, Caseware is going to put a nice little red box around it because Caseware is going to say, hang on, you had a risk that affected the completeness of revenue, receivables, and receipts. And there was control. We told Caseware there were controls and we've linked them. So there were controls and now you're saying no. So that's going to highlight and say a user changed Caseware's decision. Okay, it's not really accurate. I'm going to turn that back into yes, and that will then remove that warning. Okay, so then you make your assessment. What is the control risk assessment after your walkthrough? So I might say medium, 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 and medium. That's my assessment that I've made. You can make it on an assertion level, and they can be different if you want to. Make your comments in here, document your comments. Based on our walkthroughs, we have found this and that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is your documentation, or that is your comment section there. So once we have finished 545, you need to repeat that same process for the other business cycles as well, purchase payables and payments. Let's open that one up. Okay, in here, we only have one control that affects our purchases, payables, or payments. And there is only existence and accuracy in valuation. Okay, so a lot of this is automatically answered for you. Look into why it was answered that specific way. So none of this has been resolved or prevents or detects. We haven't done any of that work yet. Make your assessment. Walk through that control. What was the decision? Okay, it was actually low and high for the other 2. Okay, so go through all 6 business cycles and determine the control risk levels. then we're going to come back into our FSA once more. Okay, now we were in the planning section. Okay, I'm going to zoom out for a bit just so you can see it, but we'll zoom back in later. If anyone cannot see it properly, just let me know in the chat and I can zoom in. I'm going to come into the risk assessment section here. Pause for a second. Looking at the chat, there is a question from Kazi. What is the difference between okay or apply? Kazi, okay, anytime you see okay and apply in a window, in a dialogue, okay is to save and exit. So save and close. Apply is just to save the work, but stay in that stream. So if you click OK, it's going to save your work and close out of that. Apply will just save and keep staying in that stream. So moving on now to the risk assessment tab. So I'm going to come and use the current and non-current receivables as an example here. Okay. Caseware will now read the inherent risk assessment. Remember, in both of these risks, downturn in economy and overdue receivables. These are the two risks that affect my receivables. Okay. Both of them are actually set to low inherent risk. Actually, let's do one low and one medium. So overdue receivables is medium inherent risk. Downturn in economy is low inherent risk. Now I have the ability to look at this and make my own risk assessment through this dropdown: high, medium, or low. Okay. Alternatively, there is a fill button here that allows Caseware to propose a risk. So Caseware is going to read all the risks affecting completeness and existence, because there are two. So it's going to read both and say, what is the highest level of inherent risk affecting completeness and existence? And I had one low and one medium. So medium is the highest. So when I choose propose here, it's going to tell me it should be medium risk. Okay, that is based on the information I have already put into the file. Similarly, for controls risk, I can go high, medium, or low. Alternatively, I can, based on the testing that I did in my controls testing and then making the controls risk assessment in here, for receivables, Caseware is going to take the control risk assessment we just made in here, medium, for all of them. Okay, Caseware is going to take that risk assessment and go with the proposed of medium for all of that. So you can sit there and go through each and every one of them individually, or you can tell Caseware, hey, go and read all the information I have given you and help me make that assessment. Okay. If you don't agree, or if something different happens, you can then change it. Okay. So it's going to warn you here, apply the change. I can say no, and I will just change this receivables only. If I say yes, then all the other areas that uses the same business cycle will have a high control risk for completeness. But also because you manually changed it, has a little warning there that says the proposed assessment was overridden. Okay, to change it back, I remove it and then come back with proposed again, and Caseware will fill out the proposed level. Yes, so there is a change. There is a, sorry, let me just do that again. So I've got a question here. is there an audit trail of the changes made? So if I change this to high now, this is the only audit trail. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up with the user. I can show you at a later in the risk response stage. It will identify the user, but not in this stage here. Okay. So I'm going to keep it with the proposed level. Now, then we need to make the decision on the risk of material misstatement. So the overall risk for non-current receivables completeness. I can now go with proposed again, and Caseware is going to average out both of these. So medium is going to stay as medium. Medium and low will go to low because that will be the average between the two. So if I manually choose this, set this to high, okay, then when I change to the proposed, it would go to medium for all because the medium is the average between low and high. Okay, so that's for non-current receivables. I'm going to do the same thing for current receivables very, very quickly as well. And the proposed there. Okay. Cool. So that's my assessment done for just receivables. The idea here is that you would go through this list and find all the areas you want to work on and make the assessment. So for example, investment property, intangibles, asset, and investments, $0 balance. What I can do here under options, I can untick display non-material items, which means show me only the material balances. That will hide anything that is marked as immaterial. Okay, we've made our assessment, and now I can move on to the next stage of my audit, which is receiving the final trial balance, the full 12-month trial balance, and then re-evaluating some of this information again. But before I go in that, I'm going to pause here for a minute. Anybody with any questions, please feel free to put them through the chat about what we have just looked at in the FSA. Okay. I just want to mention this while we're waiting. Everything that I'm showing you here today, it's a recommended methodology that you follow step by step in. Obviously, that's not going to be the case for every engagement. You might have some really, really simple engagements that you say, we don't have to do that. We can skip this. We can jump straight into this or that. That is your own personal judgment. So you need to decide whether everything I'm showing you here today is required for each engagement as you start the engagement or as you go through that engagement. Okay. What I want to point out in this training is that I'm showing you the full suite, the full list of features available inside of Caseware for a basic engagement. If you think it's not necessary, you can skip that feature and move on to the next. However, you need to be able to justify it to the regulator to say, I didn't do this because it was not required, because we did that, we did. You have to be strong enough to say, I can justify it. If you cannot justify it, then you're going to take a risk of getting in trouble if you choose to skip what we are showing you here today. I have a question here. Is there a signal page? Is there a signal page report on risk category? Mohammed, can you please elaborate on what you mean by signal page? Or do you mean the sign-off page? Yes, there is an evidence link. There is an evidence link that I can show you later, but it will not flag, it will not raise any warning. It's up to you to review the risk report to find that and link the evidence yourself. Okay, Abdul, if you look at the emails, that Afseen sent you, there are some operation manuals in there. As I mentioned on day one, those are really, really large documents. Like, I think the 5 documents total up to be about 2,500 pages. And a lot of that may not be applicable to you. My recommendation is to re-watch these videos to go through what is applicable, what is relevant to you. Okay, so let's go through a few questions here. Can we refer other media in risk assessment process? Yes, absolutely. You can download any document from the website as a PDF, drag and drop it into your file, and link to that in the risk section here. Okay, in the risk dialog, source or reference. This source or reference button allows you to look up any PDF, Word, pictures you have in your document manager. So you've got to bring it into the document manager first. It would then appear in this list. For example, like the Word documents that you see here. Okay. Solemn, potentially, yes, you can drag in a video, but bear in mind that a video is quite large and it will slow your file down if it gets too big. So it is possible to drag a video in, but I wouldn't say it's the most efficient way, Solemn, okay, with the risk assessment process. Mohammed, where can I see only high or low in a page? So in the risk report that I showed you previously, 520E, okay, we have this risk rating here. Okay, if you don't want to see any of the other sections, I can come into the risk identification view. And when I'm in here, I can right click at the top and just show me inherent risk, significant risk, and control risk, and RMM. And so you have this risk information for inventory cloud pro controls. You can see that in here very quickly. And what you can do, like I mentioned previously, you can save that view, and that will give you a view report. So you can just say, this is Mohammed's view, and that would be your view to look at those risk levels. Okay. So yeah, the risk report, I know I've covered it in a bit short time, but there is so much you can do in those risk reports in terms of customizing a view that you want to. So go into the default view section, look at all the columns that are available, and then you can pick the ones you want and the ones you don't want, and save a view for a specific scenario. So different people within the different audits will need a different risk report. Create your own, save it in there, and it will help you immensely. Okay. So now, where were we? Now, at this point in the engagement, the client calls me up and says, hey, Ken, so we've done all our planning, we've done a bit of assessment, and then the client calls up and says, hey, Ken, I've got my 12-month trial balance ready. I'm going to send it to you today. So I say, all right, great, thank you, send that off to me. So I received the new 12-month trial balance, okay? I go back into my engagement tab. We did this on Thursday already. I'm going to import the data again. So I'm going to go into Excel, and I'm going to browse to the new Excel document. So on Thursday, we chose preliminary. Today, I'm going to choose final. So this is the final 12-month trial balance. Still the same worksheet, still the same yearly trial balance. I go next. Okay, Caseware is reading. And then Caseware says, okay, here are all the rows. Do you want to import everything? Well, not the first row because that's account number. That's not the trial balance. So tick to get rid of it. It's gray. That's not going to import anymore. Then I'm going to review everything to say, yep, this is all good. This is all good. Okay, total line. This is not part of the trial balance. Let's get rid of it. Okay. Then we go next. Okay, the first and most important column is the account number. If you don't have account numbers, if you have a different set of account numbers, you are going to have a lot of trouble. So we're going to make sure that we have the same account numbers as what was provided in the first instance. Okay, if the account numbers is different, you're going to have to remap all those accounts. Caseware is not going to think that they are the same account number. So this is my account number. I can choose to import my account description again if I want. If I don't re-import the account description, we will just reuse the old account description that I imported as part of my planning. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All of these are useless. None of that is useful. And then I'm going to come into the balances again. So in this section here, I'm not going to deal with those first two row columns because those are debit and no, sorry. The first column, sorry, the first column is the full amount. This is the debit and credit column. So debit column here, credit column here, I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to import this current year balance, opening balance. And this is my debit and credit field. Okay, I'm going to ignore these two columns. So this is my 2020 balance and my 2019 balance. Do I have to import it again? Not really, because the client told me that, oh, we have my 12-month balance for 2021. Did anything change in your 2020 balance? Nope. Did anything change in your 2019 balance? Nope. So I can ignore them and I don't have to import them again. Okay. So all I have now is my account number, my account description, which was optional, and my new 2021 full 12-month trial balance. I go next. So I've got a question here. What if we accidentally delete the total row? Sajidul, if you accidentally imported the total, sorry, what happens if I accidentally imported the total row? When you import that, you can delete it later. I will show you once we complete this. Actually, let's go back. Let's import the total row here. Okay, let's say I accidentally leave that and I'm going to import it. Okay, and then another question here from Kazi. If a new account was created, very good question. What happens if the client creates a new account? It will not create an issue. It will simply just create a new account that you need to map. So if there was a new account after you re-import, and there will be a report for you, If there are new accounts, you will need to go and map the account after it's been imported. So I will once again also demonstrate that in this next part. So account number, current opening balance, that's all there. Next. Okay. Here, remember I told you on Thursday, look at this part, account with non-total zero balance, which means if it has a balance, import it. If it's all zero, do not import that account, okay? I'm going to go against it. I'm going to say import all accounts. Accumulate balances. So at the moment, what happens if I perform a re-import? So let's say account 101, cash. Originally for 10 months, cash had a $200 balance. Caseware, and then the 12-month balance was $160. When you perform a re-import, Caseware looks at the account number. If the account numbers are the same, Caseware will take the new balance and override the old balance. So $200 becomes $160. If you tick accumulate balance, it's not going to overwrite the original balance. It's going to add them up together. This is a very, very rare scenario, but we've seen this before, where the client goes, I provided you my 10-month balance. I'm going to provide you the movement for the next 2 months. I'm not going to give you the 12-month balance. Why would they do that? I cannot tell you why. Is it a more efficient way? Absolutely not. It takes the client more time to do that than to actually provide you a 12-month balance. Very, very rare something like that would happen. But if it does, you don't have to go and manually add it up yourself. You can tell Caseware, do not overwrite the balance, simply add them up together. Okay, that is not the case in this file. This file, the client has given me the full 12-month balance. So I will not tick accumulate balance. I will want Caseware to override the old amount with the new amount. Then clear balances of periods being imported. This is really, really important. So let's imagine cash once more. Okay, in my planning balance, they had a cash amount of $200. Now, it was called account 101, $200 in account 101. In the full 12-month balance, account 101 was actually zeroed out and deleted. So it was not part of the trial balance that was given to me. If in the first import an account exists, but then does not exist in the second import, there is no overriding happen. Caseware will not override the first balance. So then you now have a $200 account that sits in your file that's not going to get overridden by any amount. It won't get overridden by zero. Okay, so when I finish the import process, I'm going to have an extra $200 in my trial balance that was not cleared out. So it's really important if you're going to be importing or re-importing a trial balance, please click the clear balances of periods being imported. What this will do, it's going to go into my 2021 balance, zero out, delete all the balances in 2021 first, and then take the balance that I'm importing now and put it into the trial balance. Okay, then I click next. So, Kazi, this is where you need to pay attention to new accounts. Okay, between my 10-month trial balance and my 12-month trial balance, 2 new accounts were created: current income tax and bank loan. So that's where I write this down. I go, yep, there are 2 new accounts. Go look at this. Then I go next and import. Now I click OK. And Caseware says, oh, now there's 1 new account in this import. Okay, I'm happy with it. Let's finish the report. Now I'm going to go back into my account and I'm going to go to my assign mapping screen and I'll see bank loan. It has $0. But if it has an amount, I need to map that into my mappings. Okay, so that's how you deal with any new accounts added to your file. If they gave you brand new account number structure, then all those accounts will appear on the left-hand side, and you're going to have to remap everything again. That's why the account number structure is so important, because that's what Caseware used to determine the accounts. Okay, Sajidul, as to your question with the total, it was actually excluded for us automatically because it does not have an account number. So I'm not sure if you remember, but total line did not have an account number, so it was not imported at all. Sorry, someone unmuted themselves. Did they have any questions or?
কারণ আমাদের বাসায় একটু ফার্স্ট ফ্লোর তো আলো স্বল্পতা এই কারণে
Okay.
Can you proceed, please?
So, Sajidul, to your question, what happens if we mistakenly import the total row? You can only import a row if it has an account number. If it does not have an account number, it will automatically be excluded for you as well. So there is that ability. You can also choose to delete an account. Let's look for account 260, bank loan here. I can choose to delete bank loan by highlighting the row and then pressing the delete key on my keyboard. Okay, let's try and delete account 258 first. When I try and delete account 258, I'm going to get a warning, cannot delete, because the account has a prior year balance. So I cannot delete this line or this account because it has a balance. I can delete 260, however, because account 260 does not have any balance at all. So when I highlight account 260 and then press the delete key on my keyboard, 260 is deleted for us. Okay, that's how you can delete an account. Okay, you've imported your 12-month trial balance. What is the next step? Here is a rule that you should be writing down. Every time you re-import a new trial balance, whether it's from planning to full year or whether the client has given you a wrong trial balance or an updated trial balance, as long as I re-import a new trial balance, what should I be considering first? My materiality, right? Because new balances means new materiality. So let's open up the materiality document now. Okay. And come back into the materiality document here. A question here, why are there nil balances in transactions and adjustments? Rifat, because when we imported the trial balance, it was the final trial balance in here. On Monday, I will show you how we can post adjustments, and then you will see balances in the adjustments column. We haven't gotten to adjustments yet, so that's why it's still 0 for the moment. Okay, if your client has debit and credit balance throughout the year, it happens on their software. When they gave you the final year-end balance. That's why it doesn't show any debit or credit. It just shows you the final balance of that year. You can add additional adjustments as you go through the audit, but you will not see your client's adjustments that they made on their accounting software. Okay, so we come through the materiality. We redo everything. We reconsider everything we did as we did on Thursday. Okay, go through each and every one of these steps. What I want to jump straight into is the overall materiality. So that day, I had gone through this list here. I have calculated based on gross revenue, 24,000. That was a possible materiality. Okay, with that, I decided on a $25,000 preliminary materiality based on our firm policy, blah, 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 blah. That's how we justified it. Now, I come back into my final because I've imported my final. We can see that there is a difference here. Oh, I did not lock that. should have locked it. Sorry. So I can see now my final trial balance has come in like with this amount. I do apologize. I forgot to lock those balances. So this is now updated to the final balance as well. If I had locked my planning balance, then it would stay as the planning balance. So that was a mistake on my part. I apologize for that. So now they look the same, but if I had locked it, it would stay as the planning balance, and then I would have the final balance, which is different. Okay. So while we're in here, I can now make the same judgment as we did before. So 2%, 1%, 2.5%. I'm going to go with the same percentages as per the firm policy we've decided on, so and so and so. Okay, then we can decide on our final. So our final materiality is $23,000. Once again, based on these reasons, I document all of that in here. Okay. Possible misstatement, go through that. Performance materiality, still low risk. So I leave that as 75%. 75% of 23,000, 17,250. Okay, so once again, based on these reasons. Now, inventory. Remember, for inventory, we set a special preliminary materiality of 12,000 for inventory. Here, for my final, I said, well, my usual materiality dropped by $2,000. I'm going to do the same here for inventory. I'm going to drop that down to $10,000. Okay, consider all of that. Update your comments as you need. Then you can look at materiality for specific circumstances and the performance materiality for those specific circumstances. Trivial misstatement stays the same, 1%. Maybe you might want to move this up to 2% to you, and that will now change to $500. Enter your comment in here. Now, because we revised the materiality, you need to look at the final materiality assessment. The partner, the manager has to go through this. Okay, consider your changes. Were there any revisions? Yes. What revisions? Did you have any emails, external documentation, supporting documents, supporting evidence that you need to link to? Click on this plus button, and I can pick from my document manager any document that's available in there. Okay. Has the impact been addressed in your risk assessment? Do I have to go back to the FSA and reassess the risk? Yes, I do need to do that. So I answer that. Then we make comments supporting documentation. Okay. Then you can sign off this document. So now when I come back into my file here, I can right click. I can complete preliminary, review preliminary, completed final, review final. So let's sign this off. And you can see my initials showing in here. Okay. Sajidu, if you import the TB again, it would update the final balance. So you only have two records, the planning and the final. So if the final you import 3 or 4 times, it would be the last balance you import. We do have a trail of each time you import, but not the individual balance. They only show you under engagement history. It will only show you if you tick the trial balance import. I cannot find it in here at the moment, but we will have a history of how many times you've imported the TB, but not the balance of each time you import. Okay. If you would like to have a trail of each import, please send me an email. I can work with you on showing you that method. And if anybody else is also interested in that, send through an email. If I get enough interest, I will shoot a video, a tip vid a very quick 5 to 10 minute tip vid that we can then share with everybody to watch. Okay. Okay, so that was one of the rules. After you import a new trial balance, you need to go and reconsider your materiality. After you reconsider your materiality and you change your materiality, what's the next step? I must always come in and re-look at my FSA. Okay. Another question here, any way to record the changes of several final trial balance apart from the logs? Yeah, the most simple way, the easiest way, let me just make a few copies here. Let's say this client has given me final and then version 1 and then version 2 and then version 3. So one way you can also do this is pick all of those versions that they have given you, drag and put it somewhere in your file. So if someone goes, why did you import the trial balance so many times? You know, what were those trial balance amounts? You can say, yep, it's right here. Okay. If there was an email, I can drag the email in. Sorry, Ken, just made a mistake. Here's version 1. Sorry, Ken, someone made another mistake. Here's version 2. Drag the email, put it in there. So that the reviewer or the regulator says, why were there so many imports? Why were there so many versions? Oh, look at the emails. This is the reason the client gave for messing up those trial balances. Okay. Everything you need to justify your decision should be a document inside of your Caseware file. Okay, coming back to that rule again. Every time I change my materiality, the next thing I need to do is look at my financial statement areas document, the FSA document. Why is that? Because your materiality changed, the balances may have changed. The trial balance has changed. Okay. You can see property, plant, equipment, planning balance of 31,000, final balance of 25,000. Not a big deal there. What's big? What's a problem? Receivables. Current receivables on Thursday, on 17th of June, it had $30,000 balance for 10 months. The final balance was $8,000 that we just imported. Is that material? No. But we told Caseware it was material because the planning balance was material. So there is a warning here that says there is a risk of over auditing. You're auditing an immaterial section. Okay, it comes up with a yellow warning because it's not that big a deal. Over auditing is okay. You're doing too much work. Yes, you're wasting resources. Yes, but it's not the end of the world. Comes further down, deferred tax liabilities. Planning balance. Planning balance of $8,000. Immaterial. Final balance of $22,000. Suddenly it's material. During my planning, during my budgeting, we did not think about that we had to go and test deferred tax liabilities. We never made plans for it. In fact, if you remember the last thing we did on Thursday's training, we deleted deferred tax liabilities. There is no deferred tax liabilities work papers in my file. So this, you get a red warning that says, hey, you need to look at this. This is more serious. If you submitted this audit without actually testing deferred tax liabilities, and there are errors there, the regulator is going to come down on you and you're going to get punished. So Caseware saying, warning, you need to review this section here. Okay, so immediately I can see a very quick comparison. What has changed if current receivables is now immaterial, I can override that and say, yep, I don't need current receivables. When I untick that, because I haven't shown non-material items, I haven't activated that, it's automatically hidden from my file. If I want to review it, display non-material items, and you can see the red dot that says a user has manually removed the materiality. Okay. As for deferred tax liability, this is now material. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. I'm going to take us over to our AOCR, the Optimizer Confirmation Report. In the AOCR, because I have now said current receivables is not material, Caseware saying, yep, you can now delete this section too. Notice that all the other sections have a tick because they were already deleted on Thursday. Now you have the ability to, in bulk, delete the entire current receivable section. Okay. You also notice that deferred tax liability no longer appears in this list, although it has been deleted. So we're going to quickly talk a little bit about recovering deferred tax liabilities. Okay, so under liabilities, there is no deferred tax liability section. So opening up my financial statement areas again, this is why it's important to review your materiality after you've imported the trial balance. And then after you've reviewed your materiality, you come into the FSA to find anything that has changed, any circumstances that have changed. Okay, one other thing I wanted to show you is inventory. Notice that inventory is below. See, my performance materiality, 18,000 and 17,000. But inventory is still marked as material. No warning in there. Remember, inventory has its own materiality. A preliminary materiality of 12,000. Because its planning balance was 15, it is material. Preliminary materiality, final materiality of 10,000, final balance of 12,000. Therefore, you don't get any warnings here because it is going off its own materiality. It's not going through the file's materiality. Okay, so now I'm going to come into the risk assessment tab again. And this time, let's come all the way down to deferred tax liability. You'll notice that all of these sections have got their own work papers. Okay, let's hide the non-material items. All of these have their own work papers, which means inventory, all my work papers is 110101, 110125. Other financial asset, this is the audit procedure for that investment. For other financial assets, cash and cash equivalents, this is my cash program, my cash audit procedure. Deferred tax liability, where is it? Because we deleted it, it's no longer there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our document manager here. Okay, you can manually choose to delete a document by right-click and delete. When you do this, that document automatically goes to your recycle bin. You can recover it from the recycle bin. But if it's completely gone from the recycle bin, what can I do? Under the document tab, I have the ability to go to the library. From library, I can choose Audit International, and you will find a list of all the different audit work papers in here. 2.115. If I deleted this document, I can drag that and put it back in here again. Okay. Under the liability section, deferred tax liability, I can manually come in here. You see, you only have equity, borrowings, and payables. But part of our entire library, we have equity, borrowing, payables, as well as all the other areas that you have already deleted. So I can drag and drop this back in here. and it would then file itself back into my Caseware file. That's one option, if you know where to find it. If I sit here and go, well, I'm new to Caseware, I don't know what should I bring in, like where do I do? You can also then click on this white button here. It says, do you want to reinsert those documents that you deleted on Thursday because you said it was immaterial? Say, yep, yes. Let's bring that back in. Now you see 325101. If I go back into my Caseware file, deferred tax liability has automatically been brought in from the library back into the file for me. So if something changed from immaterial and was deleted during the planning stage, it changes to material. Caseware will give you a warning in the planning tab. There's a warning here, but then in the risk assessment tab, we have a button that will help you bring all the relevant documents back into your file. If you don't want to do that, you can manually choose to import it yourself through the document library option here. If you accidentally deleted any other document, let's say we were going through and someone says, oh yeah, we don't need the understanding the entity. I press the delete button. It says, are you sure you want to delete? Yep, let's delete it. And then the manager comes in and goes, wait, who deleted the understanding the entity document? And he goes, oh, we don't need it. We haven't done any work in there yet. Okay, I can go back into the library and bring in the understanding the entity document once more. Okay, if you bring it in from the library, anything that you did previously is gone. If you have done work in there and you want to recover that copy, you need to go to your recycle bin and find the understanding the entity document and drag it back into your file. Please make sure that you only drag files within the same engagement. Do not go to a different engagement file. This is really, really important. If you're writing notes down, big rule here, big warning, big rule. Do not drag documents from a different file into this file, or vice versa. Do not drag this file into a different file. You can only drag from the library or from the recycle bin if it belonged to that document. If your recycle bin is a mess, and I've seen this, recycle bin with thousands and thousands of documents, and they say, yeah, I don't know which one it belongs to, well, then the only option then is to bring it from the document library. It's already gone, okay? If I look at this and go, understanding the IT environment, oh, hang on, we needed that. It's not in my file. I can also then drag this and put it into my file here, okay? 511 was deleted because something we answered in the optimizer. If we change our mind, we can also bring it back in to the document library. Okay. Yes, we do have the ability to limit certain users from deleting the file through our security protection setup. That's something, if we have time on day 3, we can talk a little bit about that. Okay. So once we have that, is everyone okay? If anyone does not agree with this, can you please send through a chat? Is everyone okay that we continue on for another 20 minutes? I just want to show you a few more things so that we have more time on day 3 to go through more features. Okay, I'm going to pause you for 1 minute. If anyone has any objection to that, please voice yourself. Anyone has any questions, also please put through that into the chat. And in the meantime, I am going to reopen my FSA Financial Statement Areas worksheet, because this is now where you see the true power of Caseware. Okay, we have been bouncing forwards and backwards between planning and assessment. Now we have completed all our assessment. We're going to come into risk response. Okay, I'm going to zoom out here because we need a lot of space in this section. So let me know if you cannot see this too well. Let's reload it. Okay. I am going to use non-current receivables only as an example, but the process that we do for non-current receivables, you will have to repeat for every section you deem appropriate. Normally, this means all the material sections, okay? If you have a policy on auditing certain non-material sections as well, that's up to you, but you have to repeat this same process for every one of them. So under the risk response stage, I'm going to open up non-current receivables. You're going to see all the information we've put in here so far. First of all, we have the two risks that affect completeness and existence. We have made the risk assessment. Okay. Now Caseware is asking you the amount of work that needs to be completed. Okay. I've seen, or to everybody else, we'll finish before 4 o'clock. So just give me another 15 minutes. I'm going to explain the general idea here, and we'll finish before 4 o'clock. So just everyone, please bear with me for a bit. Okay. Okay. So we have made our risk assessment in here. Now, there are different sections and different procedures in our audit work paper. So I'm going to now go into the actual audit work paper of loans, advances, and advances receivable. So the audit procedure document is 35101. Let's open that up. It's going to take a minute to open, so I'm going to take us back to the document manager here. 35101 is simply this document that we see on our document manager. 35101. Okay, we have a link, we have a shortcut in there that takes you straight to it. Also from your digital dashboard, if I click on asset and then I open this up here, that's 35101. So a number of ways to get to it. I like to use the FSA because I wanted to show you this here. So basically what's happening here is this is a list of all the work procedures we have in our file. Okay. Basic substantive procedures, analytical procedure. We have 4 categories: basic substantive procedures, extended procedures, analytical procedures, and test of control. We split into 4 categories here. Each procedure also tests for specific assertions. So for example, analytical procedure will test for completeness, existence, accuracy, and valuation of your receivables, your non-current receivables. Okay. So basic procedures and everything else is hidden. So I don't see all the other procedures at the moment. Okay. Then you come into audit completion and audit conclusion. Okay. So I wanted to show you this for a reason, because this is how every work program is set up. It is split into 4 categories. Each procedure has a specific, each area has a specific assertion. So what we're telling Caseware here is, for non-current receivables, any procedure that deals with completeness, I need basic testing, and I also need substantive testing, extended testing. I also need analytical testing, substantive analytical procedures, as well as test of control. I want you to do all of that. Because we have a risk linked to it, Caseware says at the very minimum, I think you need to have analytical procedures and test of controls at the very minimum. Okay. If I say for existence, I only need basic testing, I don't need extended testing, I can tick this option here. And for accuracy and valuation, let's just say I only need substantive analytical testing and test of controls. I don't need any substantive procedures. So different assertions have different requirements, and you, the auditor in charge or the manager, based on your risk of material misstatement in here, can decide on the level of testing required for each of these sectors. Now you're looking at this knowing, oh no, Ken, it's all medium risk. Why do you have different? Let's assume they are all different. Okay, let's assume they're all different. They're all different needs. For presentation and disclosure, there is no risk. There is nothing to it. I can also choose to deactivate it. This is really important because if I choose to deactivate by right-clicking and going change assertions, for receivables, I'm telling Caseware we don't need presentation. That will hide. Okay, everybody else still has presentation. You still need to test for presentation in inventory and all the other areas. But for receivables, I said, yep, we don't need presentation because I made a decision here. When I now reopen that same audit procedure work paper, see how it says optimizing. This is where Caseware bear with me for a second. Yeah. Okay, I do apologize. I'm not sure why it's not showing, but this is where now Caseware is going through the list of procedures for us and say, okay, for completeness and existence, you do have basic substantive procedures. So under basic substantive procedures, you can see completeness and existence testing, analytical procedures, scheduling, compliance with agreements, loans. Okay, test all of this because they all test for completeness and existence. The fact that it also tests for accuracy and valuation is not a problem. We are testing for completeness and existence. For all of this, you will see completeness or existence. Okay, there is a warning here. Caseware says for completeness, we need extended procedures, such as sampling, fraud testing, significant risk testing, but there are none. So I can click on this button here and go with the two procedures that are available. Evidence of possible fraud identified or loans confirmation. Okay, I'm going to select both of them and then I'm going to click OK. Now, when I scroll down, after substantive basic procedures, when I scroll down, you are going to find your extended substantive procedure, which were the two procedures I just inserted. Now, this file, I do apologize. I'm not sure what's happening in this file here, but this is automated. If you try it on your own engagement, you will not have to manually insert it. Okay. I have a feeling maybe someone deleted this or forced this to be deleted. That's why it's not showing. But even if it's not showing, even if you're not testing the appropriate area, you can see that the software will give you a warning that says you don't have any analytical procedure when you said for this file, for receivables, you should be testing for completeness, existence, and accuracy with analytical procedures, same as test of controls. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to import those procedures so that there are no more warnings in my file. Okay, I come back up to the top, and I'm just going to import all of them. You don't have to do this in your file because it will automatically show up for you. Something must have gone wrong in this file with me playing around that they were deleted. But here, using the FSA, that's why I say it's the most important, it's the smartest document in here. I don't have to go through document by document to review the required procedures. I can use the FSA as a manager. I can use the FSA to control the amount of work needed. Okay, I have done that now, and I can then also enter a comment to justify my decision. Okay, not a great view there, so let's see if I can. Okay, so here, yeah, there we go. Just made it a bit wider so it's easier to read. Okay, once we have justified the decision, I can then also sign this off with my name and date. Now, if one of the juniors or somebody else, staff members come around and they decide to change your answer, you will then get this warning here. Risk assessment was modified after completion. Remove the initials to optimize the reference document again. Okay, if you don't, then this warning will always appear in here so that the manager or the partner who signed it off can look at this and say, hang on, somebody changed my decision. I need to review this line again. Ah, this was removed. Okay, so coming back into my work paper here, I just wanted to show you, or I just wanted to prove to you, you can see my sign off in here, just to enter a comment to justify my decision on the finalization of this audit, meaning for completeness, I need you to do all testings available for completeness. For existence, I need you to do basic testing, analytical procedures, and test of controls. And for accuracy evaluation, I only need you to do analytical procedures and test of control. And I will quickly, one last thing I'm going to do, review deleted procedures here. And you will see a number of blue procedures like this. It was deleted by the optimizer. Why? Because of the following. Okay, the answer was no in the optimizer report from Thursday. So because of saying no there, I have now removed accounting estimates. Okay, coming down, you will find a few more procedures like that. So collectability. Why was this deleted? Because basic substantive procedure is not required for accuracy and valuation. Collectability only tests for accuracy and valuation. Okay, as per my FSA, accuracy and valuation is not required for testing under basic procedures. So that's why we deleted that. Cut off, same thing. Component entities, why was it deleted? It tests for completeness. Well, we said on Thursday, we said there are no transactions between related parties or component entities. What's there to test? Get rid of it. Currency, foreign currency translation. Remember, there was no foreign currency, so we moved it from the file too. Okay, presentation and disclosure. Presentation and disclosure was removed completely. So any procedure that only deals with presentation and disclosure for loans and receivable is fully removed from the file. We don't have to do any testing related to that. Okay, no expert. You can see with this is why I said it's so important that the FSA, using the FSA, we can control all of the work. Now, by signing off the FSA, I can now hand this off to an auditor and say, this is all the work required. Go and complete everything you see in that document, because I have already done my assessment in the FSA, and this is all the work that is required for you. Okay. So looking at the time now, I'm going to put a bookmark here, and we have a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put your hand up. On Zoom, you can click the raise hand button, or you can send in the chat and we can have a talk a little bit more about it. Yes, so there's a question here from Masaraf. If we have several licenses, yes, absolutely. If you have more than one license, say if you have 3 licenses, 3 users will work on the same file at the same time. Not in the same document, but in the same file. So I can log in and work on cash, someone else can log in and work on receivables, another user can log in and work on a different document. And as soon as we complete the document, everybody will see each other's work live. That's what we're going to cover on day 4 in the cloud and SmartSync section on how we can share these files and live update each other. Okay, and to your question, yes, you don't have to revoke the license. Basically, 3 licenses means you have 3 computers, 10 can work on the same file at the same time. 10 means 10 people can work on the same file at the same time. Yes, so this is the end of today's session. My presentation here, let's put a bookmark here. We'll continue again on Monday, where I will now show you how we go into each procedure, customize them, link up supporting documents. We'll talk a little bit about reportable items, but yes, today's session, we'll finish off here in terms of my presentation. We'll just open up the forum to any Q&A. Anybody with questions can feel free to check in with us. If I promised you, I do apologize because there's so many of you. If I promised anyone a one-on-one session in terms of any technical issues you're facing, please reach out to Afseen and she can connect you to me or ask her for my email. If you have my email, you can email me directly if I promised you any technical one-on-one sessions after this. Okay, any other questions coming in? Thank you, Gollum. I see some people are leaving. Before you leave, I just want to say thank you very much. I do appreciate you joining us on a Saturday, you know, taking time out of your personal time to join us. So I do want to thank everyone for their time today. Hopefully you've picked up a lot of knowledge out of this. And our next session will be the same time on Monday. That will be our last session scheduled. Keep an eye out for more scheduled sessions in the future if we need to. That will come from Afseen. The recording will also be sent to you sometime later today, hopefully, if not tomorrow morning. If you need to review that, and we can talk again on Monday. So please come prepared with any questions. In 2 weeks' time, on a Monday, 2 weeks from now, we will also have a Q&A session. We have a scheduled Q&A session then, so that you can review all the videos, and we will have another follow-up session. So yes. Okay. Mohammed, there is a hotline. It would be best to email Afseen first, and then she can then put you in touch with me if it's something that requires Caseware's help. Okay, we want to just channel everything into one location so that that person knows everything, and then we can be a bit more efficient in the help in the help desk. Thank you, everyone. So yes, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. I will stay online for a couple more minutes if you do have any more questions coming in.
Again, I think there's no question, so we can stop the session.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I will now end the session and we will talk again on Monday. Have a good weekend.